So we're here for today's breakfast bite on Pure 24/7 Radio, and I'm pleased to welcome another guest from Torch Trust today. It's Sarah Brookman. Hi, Sarah. How are you?
Hi, I'm good, thank you.
Good to see you. It's good to meet you. And just before we head into today's breakfast bite, would you like to give us a little idea overview of what you do at Torch Trust?
Yeah, I work as part of the development team for Torch. And as part of that, I help to oversee the Zoom groups that meet each month. So we have an audio book group, we have a Tuesday morning chat and a Zoom coffee morning, and then some sort of more seasonal ones. So the latest being a Lent group. A great way for blind people and partially sighted people to come together and have some fellowship.
Yeah, no, that sounds fantastic. I mean, I remember we went to your to Torch headquarters on Torch Way, which is rather cool, and there was an in-person coffee group going on at the time, I think. But yeah, it's brilliant. That idea of doing it online, because a lot of people, it's not necessarily easy to get there in person, is it? So having these online forms allows for that community, that interaction, which is really, really handy.
Yeah, that's it. I think that's where it started from. I think there were a few people who felt they were missing out, not being able to come to Torch House. So it's good that we can do that and offer that.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, I'm very glad you could be here with us for today's breakfast bite. What do you want to bring us today?
I've been thinking about the accounts of Jesus appearing to his disciples that first Easter. We live in the midst of pretty chaotic times at the moment, don't we? And as crises continue to build and we listen to the news, it's quite easy to feel confused, maybe helpless, kind of often a bit fearful and possibly angry. And maybe we can find some resonance with the sense of disorientation that the disciples must have felt when Jesus was no longer with them, had been crucified, and the one that they'd followed and trusted and pinned their hopes on, life was no longer as they expected it to be. And we too, I think, might be tempted sometimes to take shelter like the disciples did at Pentecost in the upper room, closing the door on a troubled world. Yet chaos always calls for creative response rather than fear. And it requires something different from us, I think. It can beckon us to open to new ways of seeing and being, and to being surprised, just as the disciples were. The first Easter morning is such a story of surprise and complete reversal of expectation. And two of the disciples and Mary go very early to the tomb, only to discover that Jesus' body is missing. And we then have this account, don't we, of Jesus appearing to Mary Magdalene in the garden outside the tomb, as described in John's Gospel, chapter 20. And the other disciples have left, and Mary is alone, and she's weeping. And Jesus is standing there beside the tomb. And at first she doesn't realize it's him. And he asks her, "Why are you crying? Who is it you're looking for?" And thinking he's the gardener, she asks him, "Sir, if you carried him away, tell me, where have you put him, and I will get him." And it's then that we have this moment where Jesus calls her name, Mary. And I love this very personal encounter that Mary has with Jesus. He totally catches her unawares. And what it must have felt like to hear her name spoken again by the one person who says her name like that, and the dawning recognition that beyond all her wildest hopes and expectations, the one she's loved and followed and been with to the very end, presumed dead, stood right there with her. And she turns towards him and cries out, "Rabboni," which means teacher, master, I think. And presumably she fell to her knees and clung to him. And in tenderly speaking her name, he then points her to something even beyond his presence with her in the garden. He points her to a new vision of availability and a new relationship with God. "Don't hold on to me," he says. "You'll be able to hold on to me later, Mary, and always be close to me." Hinting at the things yet to be which she has no understanding of, when he'll ascend to the Father, and then the Holy Spirit, we know, comes. And he says, "But now go and tell the others I'm alive." So Mary is being ushered on a kind of new path forward, and this trajectory of her life is just altered by this moment. And so I kind of wondered how it might be for us today, amidst our fractured world, to hear the same words that Jesus spoke to Mary in the garden. Why are you crying? It's a beautiful invitation, I think, for us to share our sorrow with Jesus and all that breaks our hearts. And there's plenty of that, isn't there? Maybe we need a reminder that God is both vulnerable and humble, that he weeps with us, cares about our sorrow, and really honours our pain. And there is a place for lament. And then, who are you looking for? Perhaps an invitation to reflect on what it is that we truly desire and to turn once again towards that which truly gives us life. There's that kind of famous quote from St. Augustine: "You have made us for yourself, O Lord, and our hearts are restless until they rest in you." And then to hear our own names spoken by Jesus, and to know that Jesus knows us completely and loves us steadfastly, as he did Mary. And he comes to meet us exactly where we are, doesn't he? It's a personal encounter. And he invites us to voyages of discovery, creativity, and compassion. And he's tender towards us, delights in us. Maybe we need that reminder today too. So in each of the stories, when Jesus appears to his disciples that first Easter, there's a real sense of generosity and abundance, of caring for their needs, helping them to understand, offering forgiveness and solace and assurance, and pointing them towards a new and active hope. And so I hope we're encouraged by that today, to have our own fresh encounter with Jesus, to spend some time voicing our grief for the things happening in our lives and in the world today, and to hear once again the gentle voice of love that calls our name in the midst of it. Maybe there'll be an invitation to a new path forwards that will energize us for the way ahead, just as it did Mary.
Well, thanks so much, Sarah. That's a really beautiful thought for each one of us. There is a lot going on in the world, and indeed in our own personal lives, that can trouble us and make us sad and fill us with sorrow and grief because of all that's going on. But that is the wonderful thing about Jesus. He offers us comfort. And he talked about, when you say about that, how Mary held on to Jesus, and he says, actually, let go, because actually when he left behind the Holy Spirit, who he refers to as the Comforter. And so that is a beautiful thought. Thank you so much, Sarah. And thank you for bringing us that. It is very timely, as we've just finished celebrating Easter. Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I look forward to speaking again soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Pure Media, the magazine, is hand-perfected with some of the finest writers from around the world that we could find, and yes, Andy B too. New editions are released just for you on the first Friday of every month, from our family to your family. Pure Media, the magazine, is available now. Sign up for free at puremediafamily.com/magazine.